everyone. My name is Erin Barnes. I'm Scoir's Content Marketing Manager, and today I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Robert Avossa. Dr. Avossa has recently partnered with Scoir to be an advisor to the company's fast-growing team. To our conversation today, Dr. Avossa brings with him a wealth of knowledge from his 25-year career in education, during which time he served as superintendent of several large school districts, including Palm Beach County in Florida and Fulton County Schools in Georgia. Dr. Avossa, welcome.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the conversation and trying to lend some of my experience and my thoughts about how the world is revolving in our education space and making sure that we're having the right kinds of conversations and staying engaged with districts and helping them along the way.
So our conversation today is going to focus on the social and emotional impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically as it relates to education. From preschool to higher ed, there's really no shortage of conversation to be had here.
No, you're certainly right. It's a business, it's an industry that relies on relationships and people and face-to-face interactions and sharing of ideas, debating thoughts, helping people learn. And, we're used to that in a three-dimensional world, face-to-face. And so it's really turned everything upside down. But we can't despair. It is what it is, as they say in the South. Mm-hmm. And we've got to push through and make the best of it. And I know a lot of this really is beginning to impact people on the mental health side, and this whole notion of staying connected and trying to, be positive and not let things get to you too badly emotionally.
Right. And I think that that's an important conversation that is kind of taking a back seat to the conversation of academics. There's been a very large focus on how to maintain the academic side of schooling when schooling is taking place in a virtual learning environment, right? But what's taking a back seat to that conversation is just what you mentioned there, the emotional and the social impact of what's going on and transitioning young students from in-person learning to a virtual learning environment and how to maintain some semblance of normality through that.
That's right. And, remember, public schools in particular serve much more than just a place to learn. They feed children. They're often the first to identify potential abuse at home, mental health issues, issues of sexual misconduct, all kinds of things that the school districts have had to do, including monitoring students who may be experimenting with drugs or alcohol. And so when you're not with your students and you're not able to see them physically and be with them, build relationships with them, then we may be missing out on an opportunity to help a child who's in grave danger. Mm-hmm. And so you're only now beginning to hear from districts who are worried that certain kids are not engaging, they don't know where they are, they haven't connected with them, they can't find them. They're not answering phone calls and emails, and they don't have the number of social workers they need to get out and actually go do a physical check on them.
So for teachers who are looking for additional resources that enable them to connect with their students outside of the regular coursework, what might you recommend?
Well, luckily, a lot of nonprofits and organizations in this space have made their resources available for free, which is great. There's one in particular that I always have people look at around mindfulness. It's called Pure Edge, P-U-R-E Edge, and you can go online and get some tips there if you're a teacher or guidance counselor or principal listening to our conversation today. It's real important that your teachers have the training, the ability to do some writing and other things that will allow kids to express their feelings. Think about it. If you're a fourth grade student living with a single parent, he or she may have just lost their job or being impacted by this economically. You're not able to go out and play with your friends. You can't play sports. That's what their world is all about at that age. And if parents don't have the ability to get them with other children in a safe fashion, then there's just a lot of kids who are very lonely right now. And, we've got to find ways to get them to talk about their feelings and help them understand that everybody's going through a bit of a change right now, and that it'll be okay. There is an end in sight. It's just trying to keep them positive during this time.
So, what suggestions might you have for parents to help their children cope with feelings of anger, feelings of stress, feelings of sadness during this time?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid to ask for help. You can call your school principal and say, look, I think my kid's not doing well and I need some help. There are school guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists, and other resources at school districts. And they can do teletherapy. They can do all kinds of things, through technology, phone calls, and others. I've seen more and more teachers this summer getting training on finding ways to do writing prompts, for example, that allow kids to express how they're feeling, and to talk about how they're feeling. Another piece of advice I'd give parents and teachers is to try to do some things that you normally would do. So if you guys maybe your kid's real active and wants to play sports, you may not be able to play on a team sport, but get out and move your body, get out and exercise, get out and do some things that bring normalcy, whether it's a board game or playing a video game with your kids, keeping them engaged and helping them realize that we're in this together and there is an end in sight. It's just a matter of trying to make it through and keeping them somewhat optimistic.
And our conversation up to this point has focused on parents and students. But what recommendations might you have for teachers at this moment?
Well, first and foremost, collaboration is key, in my opinion. So if you're on a third grade team, set up team meetings with your counterparts, so that you can talk about, how things are going, any ideas or activities that they've come up with to do things that lessen their burdens so that they can share plans and lessons, etc. Teachers in general are sharp people when it comes to doing more with less. They've had to learn to do that their whole careers. And so I'm finding a level of resilience there that I think maybe in some cases people didn't expect to see. Now, there's other things that layer in on this. If you have a husband or a wife in the house that's lost their job or that's seen reduced income, and then there's also the fact that all of a sudden you're with your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're not getting a break from one another. And so there's tension from that as well. Sometimes going to work is actually good and healthy for families because, they're away from each other. And then when they're back together, it's nice to be together. So again, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're a teacher or guidance counselor, ask your principal, does the school district have resources if you're not feeling, your best? And oftentimes they'll work with you to help you and support you through that.
Great. So, shifting focus, Robert, I'm curious, what are some alternatives to fully remote education that you've heard of?
Right now, Fulton County Schools in Atlanta, my former district, the teachers are coming in to the physical building, but they're teaching remotely
Okay.
for the first 4 weeks. And then once they get a better handle on the percent of people infected with COVID, if it's low or flattening, then I think they may go back to face-to-face.
Mhm.
So many districts are trying to get people back into a rhythm of coming to the physical building, using all the resources they have in their classroom, but doing so in a digital, two-dimensional online world. So some of those things are happening. And then there's also districts that have opened. There's a district in Georgia called Cherokee County Schools that's open now. There are students in the buildings. And just like we were scared in the very beginning to go to the grocery stores when this all happened, now we've gotten to a point where after having gone a few times and realized, okay, there are procedures in place. I'm wearing my mask, I'm wearing gloves, I'm using hand sanitizer. I can go grocery shopping somewhat safely. And then get back home quickly, wash my hands, don't touch my face, etc. So you're going to see more of that happening in schools. And as schools open, some of them who will go first will learn lessons from them. and we'll be able to share them with other colleagues across the country in terms of best practices for opening, what happens if a teacher is infected, how do we notify people, how do we get them to quarantine, and then rinse and repeat over and over again until there's some sort of vaccine. And there's really no easy answer here.
There certainly isn't. Dr. Avossa, I'd like to sincerely thank you for your time today and for providing some specific recommendations that can help us all to stay well, both socially and emotionally. For those of you listening today, keep your eyes and ears peeled for an upcoming video, as Dr. Avossa and I will be continuing our conversation on this topic. It's been a pleasure. Until next time.